I paid my sister's $21,000 tuition, and in return, she kicked me out of Thanksgiving because I wasn't polished enough for her boyfriend's rich parents. My name is Jasmine Carter, and I was 34 years old. The Thanksgiving, my family decided I wasn't good enough to sit at their table. I had just finished locking up my HVAC shop for the long weekend, the neon sign buzzing behind me in that familiar Portland twilight. The air was sharp, cold enough to sting my cheeks, but I felt warm inside, grateful, even. I had everything lined up, work orders cleared, crew bonuses handled, and a bottle of wine in the passenger seat ready to bring to dinner. I was looking forward to it. It had been a hard year, and I was ready for something familiar. As I climbed into my truck, my phone buzzed. It was my mom. I smiled, already guessing the call would be about pies. She always had a last-minute debate between pecan and pumpkin. But when I picked up, her tone threw me off. Tight. Nervous. She asked how I was doing, then said, "Honey, I wanted to talk to you about Thanksgiving." I told her, "Sure. What's up?" I pulled out of the parking lot, expecting some casual family logistics. But then she said it, softly, like she was afraid of her own words. "We think it would be best if you didn't come this year." I actually thought I'd misheard her. "Wait, what?" I asked. My fingers clenched around the wheel. "You mean, skip dinner?" Her voice faltered. "It's just, Savannah's boyfriend is bringing his parents and she wants to keep things formal." That was it. No crime, no fight, just that I wasn't fancy enough to be seen. At first, I laughed. A short, confused laugh. The kind you let out when someone says something so absurd your brain needs a second to catch up. "Formal?" I repeated. "Mom, I'm your daughter. What does that even mean?" She hesitated. "It's just that Savannah's trying to make a good impression. You know how these professional families can be." I could hear the wince in her voice, even if I couldn't see her face. "And what exactly do you think I am?" I asked, my voice sharp now. "I run a business, Mom. I employ people. I pay taxes. Just because I don't wear heels and a blazer doesn't mean I don't count." She tried to soften it, of course. "Sweetheart, don't make this about you." I almost pulled over right then. "Not about me," I said. "You're telling me I'm not invited to Thanksgiving because I fix air conditioners, and that's not about me." The silence on the other end was louder than anything she could have said. "It's just one dinner," she finally muttered. "We'll do a brunch next weekend. Maybe something more casual." I didn't answer. I was gripping the wheel so tight my knuckles had gone white. I'd spent years making sure Savannah never had to worry. I'd paid for her tuition, her books, her apartment rent, quietly, without expecting anything back. And now, I wasn't even welcome at the table because I didn't look the part. That night, I didn't go home. I parked by the waterfront and just sat there, watching the lights on the river, wondering when being family stopped being enough. The next morning, I woke up with my truck still parked by the river, the sky just starting to lighten. My back ached from the seat, and my coffee from the night before was cold and bitter. I sat there for a long time, engine off, keys in my lap. I couldn't shake the conversation from my head. It kept replaying in loops. Mom's careful tone, the way she tried to make it sound like it wasn't personal, like I was being overly sensitive. But it was personal. How could it not be? I'd bent over backwards for years to support Savannah. I'd worked late hours, taken weekend emergency calls, skipped vacations, and held off on hiring help just so I could cover another one of her tuition bills. And now, because I didn't wear silk blouses or speak in polished legal phrases. I was too casual for a family dinner. I unlocked my phone just as a new message popped up. It was from my cousin, Maya. "Hey, I need to tell you something about Thanksgiving." My stomach dropped. I hesitated, then opened it. "I overheard Savannah talking to your mom the other day. She told her she didn't want you there because she was afraid her boyfriend's parents would think she came from a working-class family." I stared at the screen, reading the message twice, maybe 3 times, so it hadn't just been Mom's decision. It was Savannah's request. My own sister, the one I'd carried for years, was ashamed of me, ashamed of the life I'd built, the business I'd grown from nothing. I didn't throw the phone. I didn't cry. I just held it in my hand like it weighed 50 pounds. That was the moment something in me shifted, and it wasn't going back. Thanksgiving came, and for the first time in my life, I wasn't at the table. I spent the morning pretending it didn't bother me. I cleaned my apartment, reorganized the tools in my truck, even took a drive up toward the hills just to get away from the smell of roasted turkey in the air. I stopped at a little diner off Highway 26, ordered black coffee and a slice of pie, and tried to tell myself it was just another Thursday. But when I got back home that evening, the silence hit me like a wave. I sat on the couch with the TV off, scrolling through my phone with that sinking feeling already in my gut. And there they were, photos posted by Savannah. The whole family was there. Mom, Dad, Savannah's boyfriend, his polished-looking parents, the crystal dinnerware I hadn't seen since our grandmother passed. Savannah wore a sleek dress I'd never seen before, her smile perfect. Her caption reading, "So thankful for this amazing family and all the love around our table tonight." I wasn't mentioned, not tagged, not even hinted at. It was like I didn't exist. I locked my phone and set it on the table. My stomach ached, but not from hunger, from something deeper. Resentment, maybe. But more than that, clarity. I had been giving for so long, hoping that if I gave enough, if I worked hard enough, if I stayed generous and quiet and useful, I would always have a place. That night, sitting alone with a cold cup of coffee and a heart that felt heavier than it should have, I finally understood. If I wasn't good enough to be at their table, then maybe, just maybe, my money wasn't good enough either. The next morning, I woke up early. Not from an alarm, just from that feeling in your chest when something inside you finally clicks into place. I got out of bed, made a pot of coffee, and sat at my kitchen table with my laptop. The sun hadn't even risen yet, but I didn't need light to see what I had to do. I opened the student portal for Savannah's university, something I knew by heart at this point. Logging in was muscle memory. I had made so many payments over the years, I probably knew her account better than she did. Tuition for the upcoming semester, $21,500, due in 2 weeks. My fingers hovered over the screen. I remembered every overtime shift I'd worked to make those payments, every cancelled weekend trip, every winter I went without new boots so I could cover her books, her housing, her dreams. But this time, my cursor didn't move to make payment. It went to remove payer. A box popped up. Are you sure you want to remove this account? This action cannot be undone. I stared at it for a second. Then I clicked yes. Just like that, it was over. I closed the laptop slowly, feeling a strange sort of calm settle over me. Not joy, not triumph, but peace. The kind that comes when you stop pretending something's okay. My phone buzzed almost immediately. It was Mom. I let it ring, then it rang again, and again. I sipped my coffee, watching the steam curl into the morning air. By the fourth call, I finally picked up. "What are you doing?" she barked, skipping hello altogether. I didn't even flinch. "Good morning to you too, Mom," I said, my voice flat. And just like that, the storm rolled in. But I was ready for it. Mom didn't waste time. "Savannah just called me in tears. You cancelled her tuition payment? Tell me that's not true." I took a slow sip of my coffee and replied, "It's true." Silence, then a sharp inhale. "Jasmine, how could you be so cruel?" I let out a short laugh. Quiet, dry. Cruel? That's an interesting word, considering she's the one who got me disinvited from Thanksgiving because she was embarrassed by me. Mom's tone shifted instantly into guilt trip mode. "She was just trying to make a good impression. You know how these things go. She's young. She doesn't think things through." I leaned back in my chair. "She's 24, Mom. Old enough to know exactly what she's doing." Another pause, then the inevitable. "You promised to support her through school." I corrected her gently but firmly. I promised to help my sister, not someone who treats me like I'm beneath her. Her voice turned defensive. "She didn't mean it that way." "She meant it exactly that way," I said. "You're overreacting," she snapped. "Family makes sacrifices. That's just what we do." I swallowed the bitter taste rising in my throat. Funny how family only seems to apply when I'm the one giving. She tried again. "She needs this, Jasmine." I stayed quiet for a long moment, then said calmly, "So did I, when I was working weekends. When I was skipping sleep to keep the lights on in her apartment. When I was covering every expense without ever being asked to dinner. And the one time, just one time, I needed her to stand up for me. She let me get erased." Mom sighed, but this time she had no comeback, no script, just silence. I could finally hear the difference between guilt and regret. And this wasn't regret. This was panic, because they never thought I'd stop. But I just did. I expected guilt to hit me later, maybe that night, maybe the next morning. But it didn't come. Instead, I felt something else. Relief. The kind that settles low and quiet, like your body finally realizing it doesn't have to brace anymore. Of course, that peace didn't last. By noon, the calls started coming in waves. My Aunt Patrice called first. "Jasmine, honey, is everything okay? Savannah's very upset. She says you've left her without options." I didn't respond. Then came my Uncle Greg. "It's just money, Jasmine. You make plenty. Don't let this tear the family apart." Then texts, DMs, voicemails from cousins I hadn't heard from in years, all suddenly interested in the drama. Not one of them had called after Thanksgiving to ask why I wasn't there. But now that Savannah's tuition was on the line, I was suddenly relevant again. I didn't answer any of them, but I read every message, every assumption, every guilt-laced half-accusation. "How could you do this to your sister?" "Don't be petty. This isn't like you. Maybe it wasn't like the old me. The version of me that kept quiet, kept giving, kept hoping that if I did enough, they'd see my worth. But that version was gone. Then came the social media posts. Vague but pointed. Savannah knew exactly what she was doing. Some people only love you when it's convenient. Sad to learn that the hard way. Never thought I'd be abandoned by my own family. And the comments, oh, the comments. You deserve better. "Sending hugs, girl. So disappointed in whoever did this to you." I scrolled in disbelief. Not once did she mention my name. She didn't have to. Everyone knew. And that's when I realized she hadn't just erased me from Thanksgiving. She was trying to erase me from the whole story. But I wasn't going to let her. I didn't text. I didn't call. I just got in my truck, drove across town, and showed up at Savannah's apartment. No warning, no build-up. I knocked once, loud and firm. It took a minute, but then the door creaked open, and there she was, phone in hand, eyes going wide for just a second before she slipped into that polished little smirk she always wore when she wanted to stay in control. "Jasmine," she said, sweet as syrup. "To what do I owe the pleasure?" I walked past her into the apartment. She scoffed and closed the door. "Come on in. Don't mind the carpet." I turned to face her. My jaw was tight, my hands steady. "Cut the act. What the hell do you think you're doing?" She blinked, all mock confusion. "I have no idea what you're talking about." I pulled my phone from my pocket and held it up, the latest post still on the screen. Some people love money more than family. "This look familiar?" Her lips curled. "I'm just telling my truth." I took a step closer. "Your truth? Your truth is, I paid your tuition. I covered your rent. I showed up for you every damn time while you pretended I didn't exist. And now you're out here playing the victim." She crossed her arms. "People finally see who you really are." I didn't flinch. "No, Savannah. They see who you told them I was. A big difference." She rolled her eyes. "You're being dramatic." I lowered my voice. "No, I'm being done." She smirked again. "You think people are going to take your side? You fix air conditioners." I smiled, calm and clear. "And I sleep at night." I turned toward the door. "This little pity parade, it won't end the way you think it will, and I won't be around to clean it up." I left her standing there in the middle of her living room, arms crossed, mouth open like she still had something clever to say. But I didn't care anymore. I drove home, turned off my phone, and gave myself the quiet I hadn't realized I'd been craving for years. That peace didn't last long either. By the end of the week, word started spreading, not just among family, but through people I barely knew, clients, neighbors, even a woman at the hardware store. I walked into Mrs. Carter's place for a routine heating check, and before I even unpacked my tools, she gave me this look. "I never thought you'd be the type to abandon your own sister," she said, like she was disappointed in a student. I paused, straightened up, and said, "And I never thought people would judge without knowing the story." She didn't respond, just gave me that sad headshake and walked off. That night, I opened social media again, against my better judgment. Savannah was still posting, still vague, still milking sympathy. Sometimes the people you count on the most walk away without a word. Lesson learned. The comments were worse this time, more personal. "You deserve a better sister." Some people don't understand what it means to love family. My name still wasn't mentioned, but again, it didn't have to be. Everyone knew. That's when I realized this wasn't just about money. It wasn't even just about Thanksgiving. It was about control. Savannah had spent years writing the version of me that made her look better. Quiet, generous, faceless. And now that I had stepped out of that script, she was scrambling. But I had no intention of stepping back in. So I did what she never expected. I told the truth. Not in a rage post. Not through family gossip. I didn't need a public spectacle. I just called Dorian, Savannah's boyfriend. Well, ex, as it turned out. "I figured something was off," he said when he answered. His voice was tired. "She never introduced me to you. I didn't even know you existed until all this blew up." I told him everything. Calmly. From the tuition to the Thanksgiving call to the lies that came after. He was quiet for most of it. Then he asked, "Why didn't you say something sooner?" I paused. "Because I thought family mattered more than being seen." He sighed. Well, she lost a lot more than just money. I hung up, feeling lighter, not because I wanted revenge, but because someone finally saw the full picture. Days passed, and Savannah went quiet. No more vague posts, no more cryptic jabs, just silence. And it was deafening. The next message I got wasn't from her. It was from Mom. A simple text. Let's talk. I stared at it for a long time. My thumb hovered over the screen. But I didn't respond. Not because I was angry, but because I had finally stopped waiting for someone to understand what I gave. For once, I was choosing peace over being polite, respect over recognition. And in that silence, I found something I hadn't felt in years. Freedom. Savannah had written me out of her story. So I started writing my own. One where my value wasn't tied to who I funded or who I forgave. One where showing up for myself was no longer the last option, but the first. Christmas came and went without a single call. No card in the mail. No awkward apology text. Just quiet. And for once, I didn't miss the noise. I spent the morning at a coffee shop I loved but rarely had time for, flipping through expansion plans for the HVAC shop. Business was growing, faster than I'd ever imagined. I was hiring new techs, upgrading equipment, building something that felt entirely mine. And for the first time, I didn't feel like I had to hide it. I wasn't embarrassed about the grease under my nails or the fact that I made a living with my hands. That shame had never belonged to me. It had been projected onto me, worn like a costume I never asked for. I chose not to wear it anymore. That night, as I curled up on the couch with a warm blanket and a silent phone, I realized something that I wish I'd learned sooner. Family isn't just who shares your last name. It's who shows up, with honesty, with respect, with love that doesn't demand you shrink yourself to fit their standards. Sometimes, the most loving thing you can do is walk away from the people who only value your silence. And the most radical act of love, choosing yourself, fully, unapologetically. If any part of my story hit home for you, I hope you know this. Your worth isn't measured by what you give to people who keep taking. You deserve to be seen. You deserve to be valued. And if no one else says it, I see you, and I'm proud of you.